So today we're going to undertake cooking a green chicken chili in the Instant Pot. One of my favorite recipes. It's pretty simple. It's got a lot of ingredients. So we're going to start out with sauteing some garlic and a couple tablespoons of olive oil. Then we'll chop up a whole green pepper, 3 stalks of celery, a couple of jalapenos. You can leave the seeds in if you like. I'm going to take the seeds out. We don't like it terribly spicy. And then 1 whole yellow onion chopped. Now you can chop these as fine or as coarse as you like. I'll show you how I like to chop mine. Unfortunately, when we sold everything in our sticks and bricks, I also sold all of my Wusthof and Japanese Shun knives. I had a small fortune in those knives, and they were awesome. So now I have this puny little thing, and it's no fun to chop with.
Well, let's get to chopping, huh? Cookie dough, cotton candy, chocolate milk. You always gotta slice chocolate milk.
And then for chili, I usually like to split these pieces I just have in half so that you get a smaller, again, just about a 1/2 inch size piece of chopped celery. And just like that, down the center, and then again in about 1/2 inch pieces. Slicing or dicing or chopping onions seems to give people some difficulty. You just gotta always remember that you always have 2 sides to the onion. This is the flower side or the shoot side, and then the root side. As long as you leave the root side intact, your chopping of the onion really goes much simpler. So I just do it pretty simply. You cut just one part of the onion off and then peel back that husk. Alright, have the onion skinned, the outer part skinned off. I always start at the root end here, cut in half. Remember, always have a flat edge, flat side to the cutting board. Cut in half. Leave that root end intact. And then for chopping, I always just take a slice through like this. Again, this knife is not the greatest. So you slice it once in half this way, and then all the way through this way. Kind of claw it like this to hold it intact. And then depending on the size pieces you want, again, we kind of just go about a 1/2 inch. So when I finish chopping that side of the onion, that half of the onion, that's really all I have left, just that little piece. Next are the jalapeno peppers. Remember, whenever you chop these, when you come in contact with the inside, the seeds, or the inner membrane, don't touch your eyes, don't go to the bathroom, don't touch anything delicate. You'll be sorry. Don't ask me how I know this.
It's more tingly than hot. Yeah. This helps. That works good.
This is just how I chop jalapenos and seed them. Cut the end off like this. Discard that. Again, try not to touch this inner part. Slice it in half. And this is where all the heat is. Everything white here, right? Just kind of flatten it and then scrape it. Scrape all of that out. Just like that. You can leave a little bit of white in there like that. Still gives a little bit of heat, but it takes all this seed membrane and the majority of the hot stuff out of the mix, literally. Like that. Okay? And much like the bell peppers, I just slice them down the center. Now these I tend to slice a little bit finer, so I'll cut those in fourths like this. and then just chop. All right, I have all the veggies chopped, as you can see here. Next, we have to saute 1 teaspoon of garlic, and I'm going to use the pre-minced garlic. Normally, I would use fresh garlic. This just has a longer shelf life. And 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I usually don't measure the olive oil. I have a calibrated elbow, so I know what that looks like.
I'm pretty good at pouring 1/4 cup at a time. You watch. Now, that ain't a 1/4 cup, no. That's not either. Fast getting there.
And it's about 2 tablespoons right there. And then we'll just put a couple of cloves of garlic in. 1, 2. Let that saute for about 2 minutes. Just make sure you don't let the garlic burn. Alright, garlic has been sauteing for a couple of minutes. Now I'm going to add all of the chopped vegetables, the onions, celery, jalapeno in there. Give that a nice stir. Let them saute for about 5 minutes, just until all of the vegetables are sort of tender and the onions are translucent.
Smell that smelling good already? You don't smell that?
Just do a quick rinse on 2 cans of cannellini beans. Spice mix is what you might expect it to be for chili. We have 2 teaspoons of cumin, 2 teaspoons of oregano, a teaspoon of coriander, 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and you can adjust that to your taste, and then 2 teaspoons of salt. This all goes into the Instant Pot for 1 minute to saute. The spices have been sauteing for a little over a minute here with all the vegetables. Next step is to take the cannellini beans. Those go on top. Just create a nice little layer there. Next to the chicken breasts, we have 3 fairly large chicken breasts. They are frozen. You can use fresh, obviously, if you want.
The Chicken Sisters, Miss Broiler, Miss Fryer, Miss Roaster, Miss Caponette, Miss Stewer, and Old Madam Hen.
Those get layered on top, just like this. And then on top of that goes 1 cup of chicken broth of your choice. So this is what it looks like before we put the top on. So you have all the vegetables and spices in the bottom, the beans, chicken on top, and then that chicken broth on top of all of that. And now we start pressure cooking. I always do an inspection of the lid to make sure that everything is intact, the seal is where it needs to be, all of the pressure release valves are easily movable and not stuck. That's very, very important when pressure cooking. So all this looks good. Get the top put on, twist it into place. Ours has a little feature that will let us know it's in place. The vent is turned off. We want a manual pressure cook, so I simply press this button, and then it's 15 minutes of cooking. So I just increase this to 15 minutes, and that's it. All right, this is going to take about 10 minutes to come up to pressure, and then 15 minutes of pressure cooking after that. Now, since the chicken breasts were frozen, it may take a couple of extra minutes, so we'll kind of check that once the initial cooking phase is done. I'll release the pressure, take the chicken out, shred the chicken, make sure it's done, and then at that point that goes back into the pot. We mix in some sour cream, some cilantro, and we're all done. 15 minutes have elapsed, and one thing that I always like to make sure we do, and this is a pretty good tip I think in terms of Instant Pots in a small confined space like this, is that when you release this pressure relief valve, I mean there's tons of steam that comes out, right? So I always like to position this steam valve kind of underneath the vent for our stove here. Turn on the vent, and then I'll hit this steam release valve or vent valve, and that way all that steam gets sucked out by the vent hood. All right, steam has been released. I'm going to take the lid off. And next what we have to do is take the chicken breasts out and shred those. Ah, those look really good. Yeah, they're definitely done. And I like to use tongs like this to shred. Just makes it easier for me. You can use a couple of forks if you want to speed things up. The chicken's all shredded. You can shred this as coarse or as fine as you like. I kind of have a mix, some fine shredded and then some chunks of chicken as well. This goes back into the pot. Let's give that a little stir. To this you add 1 cup or 8 ounces of sour cream. You don't have to add the sour cream if you don't want, but it definitely adds a nice little kick to it. If you're lactose intolerant or don't like dairy, I'm sure there are other options out there for you.
The booter and I.
The last thing to go in for a little bit of garnish and flavor is cilantro, and you'll want about a half a cup of that. I just use the leaves and stems and all. Just pretty much just take a bunch off like this. Just roll it up, wrap it up, do a little chop on it. And into the pot this goes. Give that a nice stir. Man, does that smell good. You notice I'm not really beating this to death. I'm kind of folding everything in because the beans are pretty tender. So you don't want to break those up or really make a mash out of it. So just fold it in nice and gently. There you go. White chicken chili in an Instant Pot. As always, adjust the salt and pepper to your liking, but I think it's going to be okay. That is awesome.
I guarantee.
Well, that wraps it up for this video. If you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and do that. Give us a big thumbs up if you like the video. Until next time, see ya.